All right, Lifespire was started approximately 60 years ago by a woman named Ida Rappaport, who happened to have a son who had a developmental disability, and she was not happy with the services that the schools were able to provide. And that started a it started a process that has now ended with a company that has close to $100 million worth of revenue, serves 5,000 individuals per day. We have a staff of roughly 1,700, and we provide an array of services from residential to day programming to supported work. Well, Lifespire is funded primarily through Medicaid. And as most people will know, New York State has got huge costs on the Medicaid side, and so they're looking to reduce that. Within the past year, I have probably lost about $4.2 million in revenue because the government's taken it back, and we're going into some very, very tough times. What's coming up is a completely new way that organizations like Lifespire are going to be funded. Right now, the state of New York is in the process of filing what's called an 1115 waiver, which is going to turn our business into a fee-for-service type business to a capitated HMO style, which is going to be dramatically different for us because we've never really had to be concerned about some of those things like costs and case mixes and stuff like that. We simply served whoever walked through the front door. This is going to dramatically change over the next 2 to 5 years. You know, I would say historically PR was less important than it's becoming. When the state of New York basically worked with agencies and gave you consumers, you didn't really have to do that kind of PR. Now there's much more choice involved by families and people who are going to be looking for the services. So having a good PR company that works with you, getting your message out, getting your logos and your branding known by the public are going to be significantly more important than they were in the past. Probably what's taken the industry by surprise is some of the negative press that's come out over the past 6 months with respect to both state-operated facilities as well as the voluntary sector in terms of mistakes that have happened that have had some pretty traumatic results for some of the consumers. There have been deaths and this sort of thing. What surprised me is the reaction on the part of the state and the pressure that they're putting on the voluntary sectors now to make sure that basically every minute of the day these consumers are safe, which is a very difficult thing given the fact that we're supposed to be balancing risk with choice as we go through our process. The state of New York is making funding more difficult. I had to make a decision about where we needed to be for the next 10 or 15 years, and I was able to work out a deal with the Empire State Building as well as the new headquarters, which are going to be in the financial district, which will ultimately save us a lot of money. We will be leaving the Empire State Building roughly 2 years early, but I think that this move will put us in a good financial situation for the next 10 to 15 years. Weeks. This card that's called the Lifespire Alert Card is going to be coming out, and one of the concerns that we've had all along is that as we put more and more consumers into the community, there was a concern that what happens to them if something goes wrong. They get lost, they get on a subway and they don't know where they're going, or they're hit or whatever. By working with a computer company in California, we have developed this card which has a barcode on the back of it, which in an emergency situation will allow anybody with a smartphone or any other electronic device that reads barcodes to access immediately some emergency information. Behind that, if somebody has the PIN code, is a lot of information on the clients, particularly the medical history, which could be extremely important for a doctor who's dealing with somebody who can't communicate but is dealing with potentially a life-threatening situation. And this should go live, I would think, within the next month to 6 weeks. I'm hoping that we have success in bringing our new 8-bed intermediate care facility online by March or April of next year, which will serve 8 medically elderly individuals with in-home programming capabilities. The other thing is that I have positioned this organization by the end of 2012 to be ready for the changes that are coming down the pike with the state of New York, working with other agencies and perhaps developing our own HMO.